I'd like to offer this evening a message of hope, and then to invite as your thoughts and your suggestions. I do so because I am of the firm belief that Jamaica cannot be described in any precise geographical terms, that wherever the Jamaican spirit is to be found, in whatever quarter of the world, there our nation lives, and there the spirit rises and ebbs and strengthens towards our native land. And therefore, we are at home this evening. You know, after the emancipation of slavery, finally in 1838, the manumitted slaves understood what they had to do in order to advance themselves and to free themselves from the shackles of their previous condition. And if you read Douglas Hall's work, or Philip Lamont Curtin's, or any of the others, yes, you will understand and chronicle the years of redeemed exile in biblical analogies, where people latterly freed took themselves away from the plantation, settled with the aegis of many missionaries into free villages, and also into hundreds of other communities all over Jamaica, where they cohered in a way that was truly remarkable and I think graceful in the theological sense of that word. Yes? And they clung to the church, a simple chapel it might have been. They clung to the notion of family, even if that family was not in the legal put-on ring married way, but involved faithful relationships and extended relationships that took people beyond the confines of blood into the realms of affinity, where we took care of each other. And very centrally and importantly, they cohered around the school. And many of you here today, many of us, yes, know that if our parents had a good education, we would be fortunate. But many of our parents didn't have a good education. They didn't get a chance to go beyond the 6th book. And our grandparents certainly didn't. Yes? But they held that hope that it was worth every sacrifice, was it not? So that we, the next generation, or the one after this one, that one, would have a better education and a chance of life. And you would sell the family land if you had to. You would slaughter the cow to pay the school fees. Yes? You would join a church that you never believed in if only there was a church school that the child might be thereby engaged in. Jamaican people between 1850 rough terms to about 1950 understood that education was the #1 priority, and it was the only legitimate way for upward mobility. And they learned that despite every effort of those who were in charge of the country at the time to depress education and to deny it subvention at the hands of the state. And yet it grew. And we are the inheritors of a good system, a system that is better than many other countries with much greater gross national product than we. And there were men and women of goodwill at the time. Think of the missionaries of various religious denominations who formed schools to the point where over 50% of the 1,100 public schools in Jamaica still fall under the aegis of some church. Whereas more than 50% of the nearly 3,000 basic schools in Jamaica, yes, also have some connection with a religious organization. Think of the men and women of foresight and of valor. Manning, Monroe, Dickinson, Woolmer, Drax, Bedford, Smith, so many others. Reverend Ward, Reverend Olson, the Jesuit fathers, the Franciscan and Mercy nuns, so many others in their time who understood that the value of their mission and the purpose of their wealth could only reach fruition if they gave it so that others might have the same spark of understanding. What an absolute folly it is to die rich. How can it be? Yes? After you've taken care of your family, what's the point? And they understood, as men now in Jamaica still do. I think of people like Cecil Chin at Cornwall, Carl Hendrickson and Danny Williams at Jamaica College, and many, many others who I could name, yes, who have given so much in order that another generation might share the same or better than they have. And I believe that is your mission. And it doesn't matter how much you contribute or in what form. What is important is the abiding spirit, that not going away, lurking heartstring of connection, that even after you've been here 20 and 30 years, somehow this is a meaningful coming together, and there was something in that experience there, someone maybe, who made a difference, as so many of you who have spoken before can say and have said. We are the inheritors of a good education structure. Unlike and beyond many of other countries in the Caribbean and in the Americas and elsewhere, we have a system that provides a place for every single child from pre-primary to the end of secondary. Even as we inveigh against the shift system in the secondary school, as we should, and maybe I'll say a little bit more about how we're going to try and end that. Yes? Please understand that in our generation it has made the difference, because we've moved from 1969 to 2010, we've moved from 33% cohort in the secondary arena to now 97%. That is achievement. We have a system that is good in its fundament. I neglected to say that beyond secondary, Jamaica ought to be proud in the midst of the carping that we often do, often with justification about our nation. Yes? Recognize that now we are nearing 30% of the tertiary cohort who can find a place, yes, in one of the 14 universities now in Jamaica. Can you believe that? And almost 50 accredited programs of various tertiary sorts. And there is every indication that in the next 10 years, that cohort, that proportion will go up to 50%. That is exemplary. And the mission of this generation is to take advantage of that access which has been bequeathed to us, and to extend equity and quality to everyone in the system. Let me give you some more facts and figures. Of the education budget every year, we spend about 17% of it on tertiary education. This is in block grants to the University of the West Indies and the University of Technology, largely to UWI. We cover the whole cost of the teacher training colleges and the specialist colleges like the Edna Manley goes there. Roughly 40% goes on secondary education, and 40% goes on primary education. But hear me now, we're spending only the remainder of roughly 3% on early childhood education. And I believe we have things upside down. Yes? Let me tell you more. Only about 16% of the teachers in all the early childhood institutions in Jamaica have any training. Yes? Now, that's positively dangerous, you know, without taking away from those who Delia spoke of as those without training but had been the mothers of early socialization. But in our situation of weak family structure, yes, it is absolutely important that we should give additional priority support for the early childhood sector. I go to a basic school on Rum Lane for a graduation the other day, and the children are the little children of 3 and 4 years old are to sing me a song. And I'm expecting Jesus loves me beside me. Bible tells me so. And instead the little girls, in all of their purity and innocence, I want a man to dismantle me because my boyfriend can't handle me. What the hell is that? This is an unconscious social destruction, yes, that many of us have been too permissive about. Our early childhood system needs reconstruction. Since during this year, we've been able to place some 400 new teachers in the early childhood system and in special education. We've had to do that with existing resources because there is no new money that is coming in any abundance into the education system. I wonder if you know that recent testing has shown that some 30% of Jamaican children fall somewhere on the spectrum between mild and severe of educational deficiency. And therefore one of our important steps forward has to be to diagnose their condition, whether it's physical or emotional or psychosocial. It has to be diagnosed at the earliest stage and the proper diagnosis, the proper therapy applied before, at that early age, rather than waiting as we do largely now until these problems become full-blown pathologies later on and become the concern of the Ministry of National Security, the police, the prisons, or the undertakers. The second challenge beyond our early childhood system, which will take some time and require as much support as you can help it with, is to ensure that our children are properly literate and numerate at the grade 4 level. Yes, I have been shocked to find out that here in Florida, if Mr. Runcie is to be believed, and he is, and in other parts, New York similarly, their figures are not much better than ours. But that doesn't give us any comfort. Yes, you have wealth in this country. Yes, you have a social security system. We have that. Our PATH program, which offers social welfare, amounts to $65 a day for 3 days a week. What that can buy? That's all they get, you know. So we need to move fully beyond the situation where it's about 60% of our children are achieving mastery in literacy at grade 4 and probably 40% of numeracy. We have targets ahead of us, and the Ministry of Education is providing specialists to go to the weakest schools in order to be able to help to advance teachers in this regard. Would you allow me to pause for a minute about the issue of language arts that we face and ask your help, your genuine help. I'll tell you how in a minute in this regard. We have a wonderful Jamaican language that we should be proud of, that we are all fluent in, and that we have no reason to hang our head in shame. We know how and when to use it. It is a distinct language which uses many English words but does not abide by English syntax. There is a false sense in many people's minds that somehow we are being unpatriotic and stush when we insist that the language of competence for the modern world, of professionalism and of international relation, is the English language. But eventually the product must be literacy in English. Help us please to get away from the shibboleth that there's something wrong with that or there's something pre-colonial about it. It isn't. It is an absolute necessity to get ahead in life, to be fluent both in the understanding of and in the expression of the English language. The results show us that while Jamaican children understand well, we do not express well. Express meaning writing and speaking. And this is where we have to step it up, and this is our policy to advance this particularly. To do the necessary changes in the education system within our time, it is going to be necessary to forge new partnerships of all sorts. To finance education, we are now engaged in public-private partnerships, which involve the investment by many persons in Jamaica in educational infrastructure at a reasonable coupon rate far better than you can get on your savings in the United States and in the developed world, guaranteed by the government, but which are an investment in classrooms, in laboratories, etc. And this prevents the national debt from growing, but allows us at the same time to advance the facilities to take some schools off shift where this is absolutely necessary. And during 2013, the diaspora bond will be launched with a special emphasis on education. And I trust that you will accommodate those who are better able to explain the opportunities than I, or if I can help, to come back and to speak with the alumni associations to see if this is worth your interest over time. The churches have a vital role to play in Jamaican education. Unlike this country, and I make no criticism, we need not be hesitant about teaching our children who made them, who saved them, and whose spirit can keep them alive. Yes? And I have been meeting with... I'm trusting that your alliance, your coalition, will consider some general project for your entire group, separate and apart from the assistance which groups give, particular groups give to their individual schools, either in the area of early childhood education or by continuation and deepening the scholarships that are available for tertiary education. Allow me to say a sentence on that. Minister of Finance, Dr. Phillips, and myself have had to find $2.7 billion in the last 4 months to keep those increasing number of children, young people, who come from poor households and who are matriculated into university, to keep them in school. Yes, up to today, here in Florida, I have had to be arranging an undertaking with Northern Caribbean University to pay the fees for a student who will not be allowed to sit in her examinations on Monday unless the proper arrangements are made. The tertiary institutions have been as flexible as they possibly can be, and I thank them. Yes, University of the West Indies and all of the others. But please look at, please appreciate what we're saying. Here are these students. There are more than 6,000 in this category who have done exactly what we asked them to do. They have stayed in school, they have done their work, the girls have resisted every blandishment, they have no pregnancy for them, the boys have stayed off the street corner. And you find somebody who comes from a minimum wage household, for example, yes, and who now has an entry option for medicine or for law at the university. What are you going to say to that person? You're going to say, look, I'm very sorry, we've carried you thus far, but now you're on your own and you may have to sit back and sit out for X number of years till you save up money? That's nonsense. That is a reproach. Yes? We are seeking ways to recapitalize the Student Loan Bureau, and we are calling upon individuals and organizations who can do so to assist in scholarships to those who are needy, not the greedy. So if you can help in that regard, and if we can help you to build out a project of assistance, either there or in the early childhood sector, then that will be good. Ladies and gentlemen, I have offered you this evening the thoughts of my heart. You notice I have no script. The thoughts of my heart on this portfolio that I have temporary responsibility for. I end as I began, with heartfelt appreciation and gratitude for your interest and for amazement and gratification at the bonds, the spiritual bonds, the bonds of affection and friendship that keep you connected to your homeland from this far away and sometimes over the span of many years. I thank you so much for this, and I pledge that we must find ways in education primarily, but in many other areas as well, to confirm the vital necessity and the moral imperative of engaging our diaspora in the most complete and satisfying way possible.